Now, before I kick off, I'll just introduce you to myself and the rest of the panel we have joining us today. My name is Fiona Harding. I am Thrive Tribe's implementation lead for the service here in the Isle of Wight. And I'm also joined by Dr. Richard Pyle, who is Thrive Tribe's clinical lead, among many other hats that Richard wears that he'll share with you a bit more detail on in a moment. And we're also joined by Jack Bennett, who will be the service lead for Gloji in the Isle of Wight moving forward. So I'll just kick off and tell you guys a little bit more about who we are. We've been commissioned by Isle of Wight County Council to deliver the county's Tier 2 weight management provisions starting from the 1st of July, which is coming up very, very soon. And we've been delivering preventative healthcare as an organisation across England now for over 12 years, recently doing so under the client-facing brand of Gloji, which you see here in front of you today. Thrive Tribe's mission is to empower over 1 million people to change their behaviour and thrive, doing so through a wide range of healthy lifestyle interventions that we do deliver across the country. So far on that mission to help over 1 million people thrive, we've supported 328,000 people. So we've got a wee while to go, but we're well on the way. And we've done that through helping 56,000 people undertake a health check, 59,000 people to lose weight, and 100,000 people have quit smoking on one of our interventions. In terms of today, we'll be kicking off with Dr. Richard Pyle sharing his thoughts with you in relation to all things the effects of obesity on the patient, the practice and the system. And then we'll be going into a bit more detail on what the Gloji service offering will be, who is eligible, how to refer, and working with you guys to help maximise those referrals as well. So on that note, I'll hand over to Dr. Richard Pyle.
Thank you, Fiona. Welcome, everyone. I just thought I'd start by introducing myself. My name is Richard Pyle. I'm a GP partner in Hertfordshire, not far from London. And as well as my GP partner day job, I'm also the Hertfordshire and West Essex ICS clinical lead for lifestyle medicine prevention and inequalities, as well as working for Thrive Tribe and doing a few other bits and pieces as well. And I promise not to bore you for too long today, but really we just thought we'd start by talking about not just the concept of weight management and losing weight, but actually what is that ultimately all about? It's about preventing long-term conditions, including diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And we know that we have a significant challenge on our hands, and Thrive Tribe are here to help you with that. Where are we at the moment? Well, I don't know whether any of you have seen the news just in the last day or so, but the Congress, I think in the last 24 hours, voted in the US that the current US dietary guidelines do not serve people with diabetes, long-term conditions or obesity. And let's be honest, if they don't serve those groups of people, they don't serve anyone at all. And I think we're going to see that translating over here. And I think that's just part of the problem. We know that up to a third of adults in the UK may have pre-diabetes, according to the British Medical Journal. That's tripled in 8 years. Over 4 million people have diabetes, we think rising to 5 million by 2025, according to NICE. And type 2 diabetes costs the NHS over 10 billion a year, which is 10% or more of the budget. And that's before you add on social care costs. And of that, 2.5 billion alone are just on drugs and for diabetes and related complications. And cardiovascular disease causes about 25% of deaths in people under the age of 75. And we know from a more selfish primary care perspective, and I understand today there's a mix of people from primary and community care on the call, clinicians, managers, administrators, health coaches, etc. Patients with complex cardiovascular disease have about 18.5 appointments a year. And even just type 2 diabetes alone, it's about 13 appointments a year. So it's a huge workload for us in primary and community care as well, and secondary care. And we know that primary care is massively overstretched. You know, patients feel abandoned, GPs and their primary care teams feel under pressure. The care we're delivering is probably adequate rather than excellent. And realistically, these challenges are only going to increase. And apart from those system and selfish clinician type issues, there are costs to the patient, physical, mental, and financial. So it's obvious to me and to all of us, I'm sure, that we have to be doing something differently. So what are our challenges when it comes to food? Now, obviously, there are lots of different aspects to well-being. When I do conferences and lectures, I talk about the pillars of well-being, and including movement and purpose and meaning and connections and stress management and sleep. But obviously, we're going to confine ourselves primarily to talking about eating well and weight today. And the problem that we have is that we have a toxic relationship with food, individually and as a society. We've moved from once being, as a species, people who ate what we needed, ate on the move, had a more basic diet, a more varied diet. We've moved to a society now where we have an abundance of food on every street corner, but unfortunately, most of it's crap and highly processed, and easily available and cheap, relatively speaking. And whatever we're doing in terms of our dietary guidance and the way we're trying to manage this, it's clearly not working. We know that over 40% of UK adults are overweight. I think it's approaching 30% now who are obese. In fact, it's not far off in kids either. And obesity does cause hospital admissions directly and indirectly. And about 8% of global deaths are obesity related. And I worked out that rate comparatively for the UK, and it's about 80 times the rate from violent crime in the UK. But whereas an understandably tragic fatal stabbing makes the front page of most newspapers, we don't get anywhere near the same coverage of the challenges that we're facing from obesity. And what are the key factors in this? Well, going back to my comments about Congress, one of the big problems is we have bad guidance. We have had for many years. The move to low-fat food in the sort of 50s and 60s, due to the work of people like Anthony Keys, resulted in food companies making highly processed and sugary food. And the way that we've seen weight, blood pressure, obesity all skyrocket in the last few decades is a clear demonstration that was the wrong path to toe. But there are other problems associated with that. There's inequality. We know that if you are raised in a food desert with a parent or parents who perhaps haven't had the same education, the same opportunities, or have the same resources to buy and to prepare good food, you're at a huge disadvantage. If you don't get the same education as some other people, the same opportunities in life, the same levels of knowledge, if you're financially disadvantaged, all of these things add up to face real big challenges for us all. And then on top of all of that, we have the diet wars. And I don't know how much time any of you spend looking on social media, but just a few minutes on Twitter will tell you all you need to know. You know, at one end of the spectrum, you've got the extreme carnivores, and at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the vegans, and they despise each other and both believe that only their diet is the way of working. In reality, actually, the evidence shows that most diets are pretty similar in terms of benefit overall. It's just a question of horses for courses. But that's confusing. You know, it's confusing for us as medical professionals, never mind patients who are wanting to do the best thing for their health. And we know obesity is complicated in its causes and its consequences. It is rarely, if ever, the result of people just being lazy and eating rubbish food when they know they could have done better. You know, life is complicated, and so is the causes of obesity. Now, normally, if I was doing a presentation to the ICS board to try and get some money out of them, I would be listing the options that we could be taking here: option 1, option 2, option 3. And those of you familiar with such meetings will know that option 1 is usually the do nothing option. No one ever settles for the do nothing option, but we kind of just throw it in there to demonstrate what a bad idea it is. And clearly, doing nothing is not an option for us, because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of lunacy. So what should we be doing? Well, this is where it's important to look at lifestyle and particularly food-based interventions. And this is where I'd ask if we could share the slide, please. We need to look at the evidence for lifestyle interventions, particularly food-related, because I want to just make sure that you fully understand, we all understand the good evidence for what we're talking about, and the fact that it's actually quite a lot better than the things that we already do and we consider evidence-based. We are encouraged to do, we're praised for doing, we're incentivized to do. Actually, they don't work half as well as helping people to eat better. If you look at this slide, these top three numbers, by the way, are taken from the NNT.org, the concept of numbers needed to treat, the number of people that you have to offer an intervention to, for one of them, either to avoid the outcome that you don't want or to get the outcome that you do want. For people at low risk of cardiovascular disease, so that's a cure risk of less than 20% over the next 10 years, you have to treat 217 people for one of them not to have a heart attack, 313 for one of them not to have a stroke. Not great. If you were lying on ITU and on a bed in ITU and a doctor came in and said, I'm going to give you this life-saving injection, and you said, what are the chances of it working, doc? And they said 1 in 313. I don't think you'd be all that impressed. And yet we're incentivized to do this. This is evidence-based. This is nice guidance. And you only need to treat 200 people with a statin for one of them to get diabetes, and somewhere between 20 and 100 to get muscle damage. The concept of numbers needed to harm. And if we look further down the list, we've got the numbers needed to treat for clopidogrel to prevent stroke recurrence, 200, to prevent death from a stroke or a heart attack, 300. That's 333. And indeed, rather disappointingly for those of us who try and do case finding for hypertension all the time, actually there is no evidence that controlling mildly raised blood pressure, a systolic of less than 160 and a diastolic of less than 100, saves any lives. But you only need to treat 12 people with antihypertensives to cause one of them to fall over and break something or end up with kidney problems. But let's move on to these things I've highlighted in amber and green. So the Mediterranean diet for 5 years for primary prevention. Let's describe the Mediterranean diet as basically based in lots of fruit and vegetables, nuts, seeds, olive oil, maybe some white meat. Of course, there are lots of countries around the Mediterranean, so there isn't any one Mediterranean diet. But for primary prevention, only 61 people need to consume that for 5 years to prevent a heart attack. Well, that compares favorably with the statins in the table above. The modified Mediterranean diet, whilst we're talking about Mediterranean diets, for depression in the SMILES trial in Australia, in people with moderate to severe depression, only 4 people needed to do that for one of the disease to go into remission. And weight loss, highly relevant to today's conversation, to prevent major morbidity. For every 7 people that lose a significant amount of weight, 1 doesn't become diabetic. For every 13, 1 doesn't become hypertensive. Perhaps most importantly, for every 14, 1 avoids lifelong disability with huge costs personally and to the system. And finally, again, most relevant to today's conversation, the intensive low-calorie diet now being commissioned across the UK in adults for remission of type 2 diabetes. Even if you're a long-standing type 2 diabetic, for every 2 people that go through this and adhere to the diet, 1 person goes into remission. That is remission, not just reducing drugs, but remission. And it's almost 1-to-1 if you're a newly diagnosed diabetic. Thank you. You can take the slide down now. So this is why there is a solid evidence base for doing this. And the question is, how do we do it in practice? Well, I'm a GP, and I'm the first one when I'm asked to do yet someone else's job again from the community or secondary care to make a rude gesture or rude sound and tell them to get stuff because no one's paying me to do this. So the question is, how do we do it smartly within primary care? We want to do the right thing. The question is, how do we manage it? So it could be a targeted approach. When we as clinicians have a face-to-face conversation with someone and we know they're in the right place in the right time, obviously it does make sense in some people to make that targeted referral at the time, either to the process will be described in a few slides' time, but either to do that ourselves or perhaps to give it as a task to another member of the team, or if you feel the patient's in the right place, to just give them the information so you're signposting them towards self-referral. Other administrative-based approaches, which really don't take up any clinical time, could be to do a search-based approach. So find those people with the BMI of over 30, find those people from Bain groups with BMI of over 27.5. Maybe look at the list, identify the ones you think are likely to engage, and get them all, send them all a text with a link to the self-referral, some advice about the benefits of the service. Use a healthcare assistant, use a care coordinator. Again, encourage self-referral. It's a smart use of freeing up clinicians' time that I think is important. And just to mention it as well, financially, I know we want to do the right thing for the right reasons, but every referral into a tier 2 weight management service, same as NHS diabetes prevention program or the NHS digital weight management program, for every coded referral, each practice gets £11.50, which is worth doing. And what features do we want? Why are we doing all of this. It's the outcome that's important, isn't it? What do we want for our patients? Well, less disease, longer lifespan, longer health span. Health span is the most important thing. We're seeing that shrink at the moment, and weight's a big part of that. Less time spent in appointments, seeing doctors, collecting medication, going to hospital, more empowerment, more control, reduced acute admissions as a result, which obviously is nice for them, and also a metric on which we get measured. And for practices, what are the inevitable consequences of that? Well, happier patients mean happier doctors, happier staff, greater capacity, freed up resources, lower drug budgets. If you look at the work of Dr. David Unwind, a low-carb GP, he's saved tens of thousands of pounds on diabetes drugs in his practice and helped, I think, 130 people to go into remission. A better quality of life, not just for the patient, but a better quality of life for all of us too. And it's a marginal gain. I'm not offering this as a magic bullet to all the woes in primary care, but it is a marginal gain. And the reality is that everything in the current climate is about those gains, however you can obtain them. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to stop waffling now and hand over to my colleagues who are going to talk a bit more about the service and how to access it, but I'll be happy to take questions at the end.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Richard. And if anyone's got any questions for Richard, please do pop them in the chat and he'll answer those at the end of the session. I'm now just going to hand over to Jack Bennett, who will be the service lead for Gloji in the Isle of Wight. And he's going to share a little bit more with you with regards to the 3 pathway offerings that the service will be offering across the island.
Thank you, Fiona. So yeah, I'll just give a brief overview of the pathway options for your clients or patients. They are Slimming World, which is our face-to-face offering. We've also got Gloji Lose Weight, which is our digital offering. That is a digital offering, but it comes with weekly mentor phone call support as well for that additional information, education, and accountability as well. And then thirdly, we have our Gloji Move More physical activity pathway. So I'll just go into a little bit of detail about what they look like. So option 1, Slimming World, as I mentioned, that's our face-to-face group. They are all run by expert consultants who deliver the sessions. They're weekly sessions. The advantages being obviously that you get that social support, you get that accountability because you're making friends while you're there, and that helps to sort of improve retention across the duration of the program. The outcomes are really positive. Anyone who it goes for option 1, the Slimming World option, will also get access to plenty of content. They'll have access to an app which has got loads and loads of recipes on there. It's got an exercise platform built into the app as well, which has got sort of lots of various different exercise videos to encourage that sort of, you can do exercise anywhere really. You can do it in your bedroom, do it in your lounge. It's also got a barcode scanner in the app as well. So that is really, really beneficial for anyone who wants to dig down a bit more into the finer details. If you want to get quick nutritional analysis of any foods, you can scan the barcodes and it will come up with calories and protein, fat, carbohydrates, all the macronutrients. So you can track those things if you want to go into that level of detail, which of course is not for everyone, but the option's there for those who like the numbers. Moving on, option 2 is the Gloji Lose Weight platform. So this is a digital web-based platform. It's a 12-week video program. I'll just share my screen quickly and give you a very brief overview as to what that looks like. If I can access my own account. Here we go. So this is my account on the Gloji program. So as I mentioned, it's a 12-week program. If we go to the My Path tab, you can see the topics of the content that is covered over the course of the 12 weeks. So we've got, content about diet, habit, and essentially the program is very holistic. It takes an approach of habit stacking. So rather than prescribing a given diet, it's more the approach is much more focused on behaviour change. So the idea being that we kind of meet the client where they're at, slowly introducing healthier habits over the course of the 12 weeks, and then the most of the evidence shows that this sort of slow and gradual sort of introducing healthy habits and hopefully crowding out the less healthy habits leads to much more sustainable lifestyle change. So that's the idea. There's content, swaps and sizes. That's sort of practical information as to how you could start introducing these healthier habits. Movement, obviously, as well. Emotional well-being. That's a big part of the Gloji content. I'll show you the sort of the 5 pillars by which the content is arranged and organised in just a moment. Smashing setbacks, that's obviously a really important one. There's going to be some setbacks within the a period of 12 weeks. It's never going to go perfectly smoothly. So sort of being mentally ready and prepared as to how to deal with those setbacks is a really important part of being successful on a weight management program. And so I will just show you the My Progress page. This is where you can input your weight and track your weight over the course of the 12 weeks. You can have it in kilos or have it in stones and pounds, whatever is your preferred metric. And then in the Explore page, there is hundreds of articles, and they all pertain to these 5 pillars. So the content is all focused predominantly around nutrition, movement, or sort of physical activity, alcohol reduction, the idea being trying to get under those 14 units per week. Mind, also that's sort of mental well-being. We know that there's an interrelationship between our mental health and our physical health. Additionally, sleep is a really important one. They all sort of have a knock-on effect. If you have poor sleep, it tends to make our mood worse, and our mental well-being suffers as a result, which probably reduces our ability to do physical activity and likely has an impact on our ability to make healthy food choices as well. So that's why we sort of address all the content in the Gloji program. It's not just about calories and nutrition, it's about a holistic approach to weight management. There's also plenty of recipes that you can have a little look at. Breakfast, lunch and dinner, and loads of snacks on here as well. So, the client should never be short of ideas or inspiration for healthy and nutritious meals. Brilliant. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen, and hopefully we can get the presentation back up. And then anyone who is on the Gloji Lose Weight program will get emailed these PDFs. They're interactive PDFs. The one on the left has got 100 different recipes in there. They've all been nutritionally analysed, so you know how many calories and macronutrients per portion. There's loads of nutritional information in there as well, portion sizes, how to interpret food labels, and so on. Document on the right is a habit tracker, so you can get into the habit of being conscious of what foods we're eating, what we're drinking, how we're sleeping, what our mood is doing, and then taking steps to sort of address any areas where maybe they need to be looked at. Moving on, everyone will get an email each week. This is just a reminder email. The videos unlock on a 7-day basis, so it's a 12-step program essentially. Step 1 is available with all the videos from week 1. 7 days later, step 2 becomes available, and all of those videos become available, and you get an email reminder that looks just like this to let you know when it's time to log in and complete the next step. Moving on, these are some of the sort of preliminary figures we have from the Gloji program. So 87% lose weight while they're on the program, 70% increase their physical activity, 63% better sleep quality. So these softer outcomes are really important. They, as I mentioned before, they all play into our ability to manage our weight. So that it's really encouraging that it's not just weight loss that happens, but also you can see 87% increase their fruit and veg intake, 71% report improvements in their mood from week 1 to week 12. So that's all really important and really encouraging stats there as well. And then lastly, the final program is option 3. So this is the physical activity pathway. So the first 2 options go live July 1st, so very soon. This option goes live in September, but anyone who wants to attend this program can join a waiting list from July 1st by just simply accessing the Gloji Isle of Wight website. The physical activity pathway options are swimming, netball, there's Man v Fat football as well, which is already up and running within the Isle of Wight. And there's also an online exercise program on there as well. So I will hand over to Fiona and we can discuss some of the eligibility criteria. So over to you, Fiona.
Cool, perfect, thank you, and apologies for the vanishing of the online exercise program there. That's not something we're launching from day one, but it is something we're looking to launch later into the contract, and we'll share a bit more information with you guys in relation to the Gloji gym that everyone will get offered very soon. Thank you very much, Jack. So in relation to eligibility, in order to be eligible for the service, a patient must meet all of the below criteria, sorry. They must be a resident of the Isle of Wight or registered with an Isle of Wight GP. They need to have a BMI of 30 or above, or 27.5 and above for Black, Asian and ethnic minority groups, or those specified with long-term conditions. And following this session, those long-term conditions will be included in this webinar pack, so you can have a look at what those are. They need to be aged over the age of 18 for a self-referral, or 16 and 17-year-olds are eligible for this service if they are referred by a GP or a healthcare professional. Those who are pregnant or have an eating disorder are ineligible for the service, and those who have a severe psychological morbidity can be referred into the service if they have a referral from a healthcare professional who deems them to be fully able to participate in the programme, but they cannot self-refer. In terms of how to refer into the programme, we will be accepting referrals from the 1st of July, which is on Saturday, which is very exciting. And for the Move More pathway, which Jack mentioned, which delivers face-to-face football, swimming and netball in the community, that will be going live in September, and we'll share more details with you when that's about to go live as well. So referrals can be accepted in one of 3 ways. There is the clinical operating system referral forms, which are in the process or hopefully have been uploaded to EMIS and System 1 across the island. And this referral form generally will pre-populate for you with any of the fields that you already have in the patient's medical record, and that then gets sent to us through our secure nhs.net account, at which point we'll pick up the referral. It's coded to your practice, so we can record those outcomes against your referral and report back to you if that's your wishes. And that is generally the easiest mechanism for you to make a referral to us. The second option, if you prefer, to utilise our online healthcare practitioner form. This form is on our website, which will be live by the end of today, and that allows you to make a quick referral, which again is sent straight into our secure account, and we'll pick that up and make contact with the patient, generally within 2 working days, but at worst within 3 working days if things are a little bit busy. And of course, there's the traditional self-referral route for all clients to be able to sign up through our website themselves, or by giving us a call on the number which you see on screen, and will be included on all of our marketing material as well. So I think if we just go across to the next slide, you'll see an example of what that self-referral screen looks like on our website, which will be live later today. So next up, just looking at working together. We're in the process of producing a digital marketing pack, which we'll be sharing with all healthcare settings across the island and anyone who attends any of our webinars. We'll also be providing printed material to any organisation who requests hard copies to be delivered to them. So please do get in touch with us on the email that we'll share at the end of today's session if you would like hard copies in addition to the digital pack that you will be receiving. As the service becomes more established, we'll also work with you to identify any gaps that you might have in terms of being able to promote the service to your patients. We have previous experience of producing SMS and letter templates that you might want to send to your obesity register as an example of some of the support we can give you to best ensure that you're engaging with those patients who might be eligible for the service. And finally, in terms of what you guys can do now, obviously we're live from Saturday, so please do begin to refer to us and we will start to make contact with clients as of Monday. If you've got more questions other than those that we can answer at the end of today, or would like to have a one-to-one call with Jack and the team, or indeed get them to come out to your practice or your office and speak to your team, they'll be more than happy to do that. So if you are interested in working with us further, please do drop us an email on the email you can see on screen, and share this webinar recording with anyone that might be interested, and we'll send that to you at the end of today as well. We also have another webinar running on Wednesday, the 5th of July at 1 o'clock. So please do let anyone know who might be interested in attending that webinar as well. So for those of you who do have some time to stay on and have any questions, please do. But for those of you who might have to pop off at this point in time, thank you very much for coming. We're very much looking forward to working with everyone on the island. We really are incredibly keen to establish some really strong connections. So if you've got any ideas as to what we can best do to support those eligible for the service, please do get in touch. And thank you very much for coming along today.